still in the process of reorganizing this big giant mess of an office, but I wanted to share some advice that's done me very well. And I always refer to it as this thing I heard. It's called "How Can I Miss You If You Never Go Away?" And I think about this often, and I try to preach it to people, and varying degrees of success that they listen. And you know, sometimes it doesn't seem like it matters, but it does. So I'm going to break down exactly what this means and what you should do with this information. How can I miss you if you never go away is what I say when I'm in situations with bands and groups that constantly play the same venues over and over and over. And the clubs don't have a problem taking them because the clubs generally are in business to sell beer and booze and that kind of thing. They don't have any idea about long-term effects. They're looking at the short term. Restaurants and bars close more than anything else. It's a very risky business. So, they might not be thinking about it long term because long term is a year or two or five, right? So longer term than whatever you think your music scene is going to be. The club might not be there, right? The club only is interested in right now and maybe long term in a year, right? So let's break down why that happens, okay? The things that the clubs don't do, the things that the clubs do that are not conducive to a good music career, right? And I could do a whole other thing on this too. But most of the clubs we play around here, most of the clubs around generally have TVs all over the room showing sports. Some of the places have gambling machines, like you could play video poker, whatever. Some of the places have multiple rooms and food and a million other distractions to take away from you in the place playing, right? And a lot of clubs don't get that's a distraction, that you already have to deal with people on their phones that they can constantly just look down and look at naked girls or whatever they want, their bank accounts, whatever they want to do. And that's a distraction, which is why bigger venues try to remove that distraction. Say, we don't want your phones in here. We're here to do this event. That's why we're here, period. So you got that. You got the TV showing every game. You got 100 million TVs in the room showing every game that's going on in freaking horse racing. You got all these things that are distractions that take away from you at the event playing music, right? So you're already playing against the odds that you have to sell yourself over those things, right? Try booking yourself the same day as the Philadelphia Eagles play the Patriots and think you're going to have a good gig. You're out of your mind. You just say, no, don't do it, right? Phillies playoffs. You're not going to play a gig during the Phillies playoffs. And people take those gigs because they're stupid. There's no reason to take those gigs. Say no. There's no reason to do that. So the philosophy that I carry is you have all that stuff you have to contend with, and generally the club is not going to listen to you. The promoter isn't going to try to say anything about it because they're going to raise a fuss, or they don't even understand that. They don't understand that that's bad, that having all this stuff in the room that takes the person's attention away from you being there, paid to perform, it's all bad. So you avoid it as best you can. Now, one of the things you can do is to draw more interest in your value of being there is to not play there every month or every twice a month or 3 times a month or once every month or whatever. You play there once every 4 to 6 months or longer. That way, when you show up there, it's a big deal that you're there because you're not there all the time. So it becomes more valuable that you're there. So then people will have more interest to come out to see you if they know that that's not a recurring thing that happens every friggin' week or 2 or month. There are bands around here that play the same venue over and over and over. They probably play the same venue 15 times, 12 times a year, the same one. And the clubs are guilty of letting this perpetuate. The promoters are guilty of it too. But the artist is the most guilty of all because they're the ones that it's the worst for them. It's the worst thing for them because it doesn't have any value that you're there if you're there all the time. You matter less and less and less. Even if you have tons of friends, even if you have a huge following, that following will diminish if you're there every single week. That's why the circus only comes in town once, and you are living a carny life as a performer. There's no doubt about it. You make money, the most money performing, and you make the least performing if you keep doing it in the same place. You have to move. So you have a choice. You could play the same places, establish relationships with all the clubs around that you want, that as far as you're willing to go. For me, it's the tri-state area. It's New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and Pennsylvania, whatever's left of Pennsylvania's music scene. Philadelphia, even less. Establish relationships with these people, and then tell them that this is the schedule that you want to keep yourself on, and live that way. And play more places less, not smaller places more. And that's been my philosophy for a really long time, and it's done me very well. It's a big deal that the bands we do and show up, and it doesn't happen all the time. So it's a way to garner interest in people that may not come out if you play the same place 12 times. And the club doesn't care about your artistry growing or your interest growing. They just want bodies in their club so they can sell booze. So if a local band, cover band, whatever, original band, you have success and you have a relationship with this band, they'll just book you as many times as you ask until you either don't show up or something really bad happens or no one shows up, which that's never going to happen. There's not going to be a club where absolutely no one I should take that back, because it's actually happened to me where we played a club and there was nobody there because the club was closing. The club was closing like in 2 days and no one told us. But it's very, very rare. And I wouldn't put that, I don't think the club would put that on the band. So you establish a rapport with a club, they'll hire you as many times as you want. It doesn't matter. As long as you don't ask for a crazy amount of money, or as long as you're not an asshole or have huge amounts of problems, right? Even if you are an asshole, they won't care if you're bringing people. They will not care. So it becomes your choice whether or not you want to play the same club 4 times a month, 3 times a month, 2 times. I've seen it, and I'm just like, what are you doing? You're killing yourself. You're killing your scene. You're giving no one else opportunities to come out and play, meet new people, have new people come to the same clubs. That's another huge problem, is the clubs, at least the clubs local to Philly and Delco, they're full of 55-year-old people because it's the same people. They've been playing the same shit since the club opened. They've been playing the same stuff with the same people and just regurgitating members when someone has a kid or leaves or whatever. They just switch places, go to a different band, but there's no new blood because they're eating up all the gigs. And once they're gone, it's gone. There's plenty of places where that's exactly what's happened. Lots of clubs in Delaware that are just gone. I think there's one left, Nomad, and you could play at the Broom Closet above the Queen if you can bring 15 people and they drink a lot. But besides that, there's nothing left. What I've started to see is this kind of punk rock thing, which is awesome, where when the event gets posted or the event gets listed, they don't show the address. You have to actually message the person to promote, or it's a secret club show. So it could be a basement show at someone's house or at a venue that's not normally a club venue, which is awesome. That's cool and interesting. And I hope that happens more because the clubs aren't doing that. The clubs have no pull. Maybe a couple in the city, but not the way it used to be. And there's just so much more competition. So it needs to be more valuable that you're there because you're not there all the time, right? If a guy, I remember, Marty Friedman, ex-Megadeth guitar player, went to Japan, said, screw all this shit. I'm going to Japan, and he can do whatever the hell he wants. It doesn't matter. He's Marty Friedman. When he came back, it was a big deal when he came back to perform because he hadn't been here since whatever the last record he did was with Megadeth. So when he came back, it was like a very big deal. And there's lots of, that's why the bands do reunions. That's why bands that break up do reunions again, because it's a big deal. It's a huge event. They can raise money, or they could just keep the money or whatever. So 4 to 6 months per venue is a real good rule of thumb in my personal Bible of performing. And I haven't thought about it too much if it goes along with performing for theater stuff. But generally, it is that way. Generally, just thinking about it, generally the people that I work with in that field, it's generally in that time frame too, 4 to 6 months, maybe a little bit less if they need someone that when someone flakes out of a show or you need someone to sub or whatever. But yeah, 4 to 6 months. And it's a big deal that you're there, and it's a big deal that they're doing the show, because the show wasn't going over and over and over for months and months at a time, and the house band thing for clubs just doesn't hold any water where I'm sitting anymore. There's no house band around here that's drawing anything but flies and the same 5 people that came to see them the time before that and the time before that. So I understand the club's argument of why they continue to do this, because they have a relationship with a band and they know they'll show up and they know they won't give them a hard time about pay because there's nobody here, and they know that they won't be, violent or drunk or preachy or whatever. They know who they are. They have a relationship, and nepotism is a great thing when it works out for you. It's just not great when it doesn't work out for anybody else. But, in the end, it's bad because it kills the clubs, because you're bringing the same people and the same people get tired. It kills the clubs because there's no music scene because of what I just said, and because of all the other stuff I just said about all these distractions of things that take away from the thing that you're booking. So if you're going to have bands at a club, then move all the other stuff out of there. You're here to see the club. You're here to see the band, right? And then there's lots of other problems too. But those are really the big ones. And as an artist, as a musician, it really is suicide to play the same places over and over and over. I'm definitely guilty of it. This is not me preaching on a high horse. This is stuff that I did that I look back on now and I realize that it was a mistake. That the clubs were perfectly happy to just keep doing it, but in the end it's bad because of all the things I just said. You never gain an audience or any interest in anything doing that. You're just doing it because it's fun. And if you're there for fun, great. But long term, it's going to look like this. It's just a water slide down to obscurity where no one's there, no one cares, and the club is gone. The club doesn't exist, and the club, did nothing to really. They think that they're helping artists by giving them a shot. Yeah, except it's the same people. So you're not bringing in new talent. You're not bringing in new people, new faces, and the place just gets a reputation for. These are the people that play here, and if you want to see that, this is what's there, and that's just bad news. It's really bad. I also understand that agents will, you get an agent. The agent's got, let's say, 15 bands. 15 bands, all cover bands or whatever. And maybe 3 of them are like really, really popular, and the rest of them are dog crap. And you're gonna have the club have a contract where, I'm gonna have, Spartacus and the Dirty Apes or whatever play against. They're gonna play this club 5 times in 5 months, and they're the crappy band that no one wants to see. But then I'm gonna give you my good artist once every 3 months. It just becomes a bargaining chip. And in the end, it's a good chip because the bars just need bands, right? So, yeah, the way out of this, unfortunately, is you have 2 choices. You could either establish relationships with places that are farther away from you, out of your zone, out of the state, or at least in a 50-mile zone, or a 100-mile zone, or a 200-mile zone even, right? Work relationships with these clubs, and it takes a long time. It takes a lot of phone calls and emails and working through the chaff of the nonstop barrage of noise that these club owners deal with. It's nothing personal. I never take it personally one way or the other. And then saying, here's what we're looking to do. Here's why. And that's it. Make your pitch. And if they say yes, they say yes. And if it's, 3% of 100 clubs you've contacted, you've got 3 more places you could do. And you just keep doing that. And then if you have enough places you can book where you're doing 80 shows to 100 shows a year, you're doing pretty good. You're doing way better than the guy that's playing the same club 12 times a year. And for his wife or girlfriend and 3 other people, and there's nobody else, interested or cares or it doesn't grow in any kind of way at all. It's just stable for the club. The club has the same 4 or 5 drunks there filling the bar tab. Okay, well, that's good, but is it getting any better or more people? No. So eventually, it's gone, and then you have nothing. And then you go to like a parasite, you just move on to the next club. You learn 0 lessons about what happens and why, and you just do the same thing until all that goes away. So you just have a choice. You could either build up the places you're around by being there less, or you just keep doing what you're doing and everything closes and you have nowhere to go. It's really that simple. So, I'm not dissing the clubs. I'm dissing the musicians. I understand the clubs, why they do. I diss the clubs when it comes time for other things like background checks, which they don't do. They just hire anybody. It doesn't matter. Promoters being dirtbags and scumbags, which is rampant. That's every place ever. It's just, if you go to a bowling alley, there's going to be bowling pins. If you go to a club, there's going to be just a stereotype promoter in every single city in the world. And they'll act the same way, lie the same way, do the same stuff. So that scene, I do have a problem with that. And the stuff that I said earlier about the trying to be everything to everybody. Okay, we're going to have the soccer games on, and we're going to have the baseball games on, and we're going to have the wrestling over here, and we got Keno, and we got Smokers Lounge, and there's backgammon in the back, and you could play chess. And on Tuesdays, we're doing Dungeons and Dragons, and Wednesdays, we're doing, friggin' strip poker. Like, it's a bunch of gimmicks, and it's just, please come to our bar, please, please, please come to our bar. That's how it reads to me. It's just, we don't have an identity. The identity is whatever will bring people here. And it's just, I never owned a club. It comes off to me as very weak. That's our identity is whatever we're doing today. So you want to be a rock club, just be a rock club. And if there's not enough interest and there's not enough stuff, close. You want to be a place that sells food, make great food. You want to be a place that shows soccer games, show soccer games. I don't know about the curtailing to everybody. I think you just curtail to nobody. That's just my opinion as not a club owner. So it's just, again, so people could come at me and say, oh, you never owned any. Right. I've only been around it for 20 years, though. I've been around it and seen the same stuff work and the same stuff not work. Great promoters and great owners make shit work well. People who don't know what they want and they just are doing whatever's great right now, that doesn't work long term. It might work in the short term, but it doesn't work long term. You just get a reputation for just not, people don't give a crap. So yeah, how can I miss you if you never go away? So anytime you get looking at clubs, looking at places to go, looking at stuff like that, you can't eat pizza every day, but if it's special, it tastes real good. Pizza Hut's like that. I think Pizza Hut's garbage, but maybe once a year I get a hankering for it and I eat it, and then I remember it tastes good, pretty good. It tastes okay for a while, and then afterwards I'm like, I'm never having this again. And then a year goes by, and then I have it again, and I'm like, it's okay. once in a while. So, just my 2 cents.